Hey, so I haven't been around in a while. I said I was going to do a second video like 6 months ago. Sorry. But yeah, this is the talking about picking your system video. Because you want to play a tabletop RPG, that's why you're watching this series on this here YouTube channel. And you don't know what to play. So I'm going to give you some options. Tell me what you want. And hopefully you're not going to mess with me with this green screen for too much. It's mostly a privacy filter, because stuff's happening in the other half of the office. Anyway, the system. You're going to have to pick a system. That's how this works. And I'm going to tell you right now, my default system that I go to, and so the default system that I always think of playing, is Pathfinder 1st Edition. My default before that was D&D 3.5, so you can kind of see the progression there. You're brand new, so if you can't see that, it's because Dungeons & Dragons has had a lot of additions. You have Basic. I'm cutting some out. If you come after me going, you forgot this one. I know. You have Basic, First, Second, Skills and Options, which is 2.5, Third, 3.5, Fourth, Essentials, which is 4.5, and now Fifth. So Fifth is the 9th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Don't worry about math so much. So there's your first clue. But what happened was, when they went from 3.5 to 4th, the company that was in charge of Dragon Magazine, that was the magazine for Dungeons & Dragons, they now couldn't do Dragon Magazine anymore. The license was revoked. And that was their main source of money. And most people like having money in a capitalist society because that helps you pay for goods and services. So they made their own game based off of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 because 3.5 was part of something called the OGL, the Open Game License. So they were legally allowed to do this. And they made Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is kind of like 3.5 with some tweaks. And it's a little bit more powerful and a little bit more balanced and a little bit more fun, in my opinion. That's not to say that there aren't things in 3.5 I am incredibly fond of that didn't make the jump. There was a class called the Archivist who didn't make it over to Pathfinder. I'm always sad about that. Anyway, so now Dungeons & Dragons had two 4th editions. You have 4th edition and you have Pathfinder. Pathfinder 1st edition, because there's now a Pathfinder 2nd edition, which you can kind of count as the other 5th edition. This is all getting confusing. So anyway, if I'm going to talk about Pathfinder, I'm going to tell you the edition. If I tell you about Dungeons & Dragons, I'm going to tell you about the edition. That's how this is going to work. Okay? Okay. I normally go to Pathfinder 1st edition. That's my default setting. That is what I've played the most out of my 18 now years of playing Dungeons & Dragons. I've played 3.5 for about 15 of them, 10 of which was Pathfinder 1st edition. So there you go. I'm familiar with the system and the meat and potatoes. There's some differences between the two that I will occasionally mess up. Because, much like Matt Colville, I'm never wrong, I'm right in the wrong edition. When I started playing 2nd edition from hand-me-down books. Now my default is Pathfinder, which is the other 4th edition. Most people you run into, in my experience, are going to play Pathfinder 1st edition or Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. That's how it works. So the easiest way to pick your system is let your players pick the system. If they're like, oh, we want to play what's on Critical Role, or we want to play what they play on Dimension 20, you're going to play 5th edition. That's how that works. So you're going to play 5th edition. Future me will put a book here, I hope. Good job, Future me. And then you're going to play 5th edition. That's what your friends want to play. That's fine. That's good. That's what you want. Because the more important part is playing with your friends. Now, what systems do I play? I play Pathfinder 1st edition. I'm looking into Pathfinder 2nd edition. I have the book. I haven't played it yet. I haven't even really looked at the book much yet, other than a precursory glance. I might sit down and actually crack into that sometime this weekend. I play 5th edition, normally as a DM. I play 4th edition, normally as a player, though I don't mind DMing 4th edition. Not at all. I do use a lot of house rules when I play 4th edition, and I'm not super fond of Essentials. I'm weird in that I didn't mind 2.5, I loved it. I didn't mind 3.5, I loved it. 4.5 is the first time I went, hey, this is wrong. I have reasons on that. That'll be another video if enough people ask. I will play Savage Worlds, I will play Fate, I will play Marvel Superheroes, I will play the hell out of Aeroflight. It's almost Christmas time, so one of my favorite games is in the same system as Aeroflight, the XPG system, and that is Santa's Soldiers, and I love Santa's Soldiers. That one's a load of fun. Very different from D&D. Very, very fun. And then there's so many systems that I like to play, or that I want to play. Like, I haven't had a chance to play the Star Trek Adventures RPG yet, but, oh man, am I down for some Star Trek Adventures? I want to come up with some characters. I already made my character. I made a descendant of Mudd, Harry Mudd. And so my guy's named Cornelius Mudd, and he's going to be the same kind of, like, I know what I'm doing, I'm here to make money type of a guy in a post-capitalist society, and he makes no sense, and I love him. But you need to find out what system you want to play. You want to talk to your players. If it comes down to nobody has an idea, my suggestion is find out what kind of game you want to play. If you want to play a fantasy game, you're probably going to pick Pathfinder or Dungeons & Dragons. Done. There is Aeroflight, there is a bunch of other fantasy RPGs out there. There's the Osric games, there's Dungeon Crawl Classics, but most people are going to end up in Pathfinder or Dungeons & Dragons, and I respect that. If you're playing a non-fantasy game, what you're doing is going to determine what you want to do. If you want to play Star Trek, go do Star Trek Adventures. It looks sweet. Everything I've seen about it is amazing. If you want to do Red Dwarf, there's a Red Dwarf RPG. It's great. If you want to do Star Wars, go do Edge of the Empire, or do the old D6 Star Wars. I'm personally, even though I have the books and I do enjoy playing it, my least favorite Star Wars RPG is the D20 Star Wars RPG. I don't know. They're all good. They're all fine. If you want to play something new and original, go do Starfinder. It's like Pathfinder, but in space, which is effectively halfway between Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's fun. You have rat folks, and you have lizard dudes. It's great. You want to do superheroes? There's Marvel superheroes, there's icons, there's 4-color. 4-color, I want to say, is like $1 or free on Drive-Thru RPG. That one's great. There's a lot of great options for superheroes. Like, seriously. Mutants and Masterminds is a classic one. That's how I do most of my DC superhero-themed games, because I have the DC Adventures book, which is made in that system. It's great. There are so many different genres and so many different games you can play in those genres. You can go nuts. Now, if you want a good standard fantasy RPG, it's hard to go wrong with Pathfinder 1st Edition or Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. What I'm going to say this comes down to is the power level you want and the goal of your game. Here's what I mean. If your goal is to play a dungeon crawly game where the power levels are low, you want something more like The Mummy starring Brendan Fraser, go with Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. Meanwhile, you want something that's a bit more high fantasy, a bit pulpier, feels a bit like, what was that show with the fairies on Amazon? I have to look this up. I'm leaving this in. Future me, don't edit this out. Unless you do, then no one will know. Orlando Blue. Carnival Row. If you want something a bit more like Carnival Row, on Amazon Prime, or a bit more like Pirates of the Caribbean, probably go Pathfinder 1st Edition. Really what it is that Pathfinder is going to let you get more granular with your customization. D&D is going to have everything wrapped up in a pretty package. There are other fantasy RPG systems that will also be more granular. Aeroflight's even more granular than Pathfinder, but easier when you're in play. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. A lot of different ways. Do what your group wants to do. Now, on most of my videos, I'm going to preface them with what system I'm talking about. If I don't preface it, I'm talking about Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder 1st Edition. Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. That's how I roll. That's what I do. Those are what I normally play. So they're what I know best. Even 5th, I'm a little shaky on still. I'm still learning the ropes. I found out that I want to rewrite some of the classes, and I have. And I like my rewrites better because I like character archetypes that aren't necessarily what people want to play all the time. Next video we might change where this camera is, because it is low compared to me. Not the biggest fan there. Yeah, this is a rough video. I'm not going to deny it's a rough video. I've been stressing out about it so much. I'm going to do these a lot more loosey-goosey. I think that's the way to do it. If you have questions and you want to know things, please put them in the doobly-doo down below. And you put them there, and I will answer them. They might turn into a whole video like this. They might end up on the Dungeon Doctor, which you may have seen a VOD for recently. I'm going to try to do Dungeon Doctor every week if I can, either making characters or making character minis with Hero Forge. and answering people's questions live. And that's how that show will work. So if you're enjoying this, if you want more of this, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Sharing helps a lot. Liking helps a lot. Talking helps a lot. YouTube cares about you clicking things on the page. So please click things on the page. There are things down there. Please click them. That subscribe button. Click that one. The bell. All of that. You get the idea. And then you hit that share button. You send it to your friends. It's great. That's everything. So anyway, I'm Robert Black. I'm Alchemy Prime. Call me either one. I will answer to both. And I am here to help you play games better. Because not everyone's style matches, other expert DMs like Matt Colville or Matt Mercer. I'm not a Matt, so maybe your style matches mine. We'll find out.